As Gulf Coast residents, of course, commemorate the 4th anniversary of Katrina, a number of federal employees, including members of President Obama's administration, are in town for 4 days of service projects as part of the United We Serve initiative that asks Americans to volunteer this summer. Jill Hazu joins us now with some details. Good morning, Jill.
Good morning, Rob. Good morning, everyone. 100 federal employees are expected in New Orleans over the next 4 days to perform service projects. Earlier this year, on Martin Luther King Day, President Obama called for a day of service. Today, the federal coordinator of Gulf Coast Rebuilding will work with the St. Bernard Project, Habitat for Humanity, Rebuilding Together, and the Louisiana Disaster Recovery Foundation to mark the 4th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. Since the storm, we've seen hundreds of thousands of volunteers across the metro area donate millions of hours of service to help locals rebuild.
It's a very, very emotional thing to see these people come in and just want to help, do whatever they can. They've made a huge difference in my life. Makes me want to go out and volunteer more.
The group is expected to begin volunteering this afternoon at 12:30. We'll have more details on the project coming up later in the Eyewitness Morning News. Always good to see volunteers here.
We don't know where we'd be without them, that's for sure. Thanks a lot, Jill.
From WWL-TV, the spirit of Louisiana, this is Louisiana's news leader, Channel 4's Eyewitness Morning News.
As people along the Gulf Coast pause this weekend to remember Hurricane Katrina and the devastation it caused 4 years ago, some will also take the time to volunteer to help those who are still trying to recover.
A member of the Obama administration, as well as a number of federal employees, are here today for 4 days for service projects. It's part of the United We Serve initiative that asks Americans to volunteer this summer. Jill Hazu is joining us now with more on that story. Jill?
Good morning. Starting today, the federal coordinator of Gulf Coast Rebuilding will work with Habitat for Humanity, the St. Bernard Project, the Louisiana Disaster Recovery Foundation, and Rebuilding Together to mark the 4th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. Since the storm, we've seen hundreds of thousands of volunteers across the metro area donate millions of hours of service to help locals rebuild. Today, 100 federal employees are expected in the New Orleans area over the next 4 days to perform service projects. Organizers say the purpose of the event is to highlight the progress that has been made, but also show that more volunteers are needed.
I learned how to put in some flooring that I never knew how to do before, and I hope it helps the homeowner get back in his house sooner. I live in New Orleans, and I know how hard it's been.
The group is expected to begin volunteering this afternoon at 12:30. We'll have more details on the project coming up later in the Eyewitness Morning News. Sally Ann?
Thank you, Jill.
In addition to all of the planning and money that has gone into the city's recovery since Katrina, few can doubt the enormous role that volunteers have played as well. From church groups to spring breakers, people have flocked from around the world to aid in our rebuilding. And today, yet another volunteer initiative will be launched with several Obama administration officials here in the Crescent City to help kick off that effort. Jill Hazu joins us now with more. Good morning, Jill.
Well, good morning. Today, 100 federal employees will come here to New Orleans to embark on a 4-day service project event, including work here at the Rebuilding Together New Orleans Community Center. Since the storm, we've seen hundreds of thousands of volunteers across the metro area donate millions of hours of service to help locals rebuild. Starting this afternoon, the federal coordinator of Gulf Coast Rebuilding will work with Habitat for Humanity, the St. Bernard Project, Rebuilding Together, and the Louisiana Disaster Recovery Foundation to mark the 4th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. Organizers say the purpose of the event is to highlight the progress that has been made, but also show the fact that more volunteers are still needed.
I'm aware that the magnitude of the impact was just still this enormous.
It's a shame, but you know what? The people are optimistic and they're rebuilding. We were passing by a desolate area, a place that was completely demolished from the storm 4 years ago. And we saw a single man building his house with his own hands with no help whatsoever. And that's the type of optimism these people have. And that man will build that house until he dies or until the house is built.
And And the rebuilding efforts start around 12:30 this afternoon. Coming up next hour, we'll talk to the member of the Obama administration that is in town today, the federal coordinator of Gulf Coast rebuilding. We'll find out more about this service event. Reporting just on Ferdinand Street, actually. St. Ferdinand Street, Jill Hazu, Channel 4 Eyewitness News.
All right, good work going on today. Thanks a lot, Jill. People along the Gulf Coast will pause, of course, this weekend to remember Hurricane Katrina and the devastation it caused to this area 4 years ago. Since the storm, few can doubt the enormous role that volunteers have played in helping the Crescent City get back on its feet. And today, yet another volunteer initiative is being launched with several Obama administration officials and federal employees here in the Crescent City to help kick off that effort. Jill Hazu joins us live with details. Good morning to you, Jill.
Good morning. Right now, we're inside the Rebuilding Together New Orleans Community Center, where a number of federal employees will be here today renovating this building as part of one of their several service projects. Joining me now is one of those volunteers, Janet Woodka, the federal coordinator of Gulf Coast Rebuilding, who took over in April for Doug Odell. Tell us, what do you think of the recovery 4 years after, and what goals have you set for the rebuilding effort here?
Good morning. It's so nice to be here, and I think that the rebuilding is turning a corner. There is a new sense of optimism on the ground. We are moving the money through the process, and you're seeing more and more infrastructures actually start moving through. I'm hopeful that we'll start seeing groundbreakings on things like a new jail. We're starting to see roads being rebuilt, and that's infusing a sense of confidence into the community. Going forward, we still have a lot to do, especially in housing.
You see, still have a lot to do, and we've seen volunteers being involved in that process. What do you think about how people all across America have responded to the New Orleans area since the storm?
Well, I think that the volunteers coming into the city and what the local community does have been remarkable. It's rather ironic or quite sad that we're doing this today. We just had word that Senator Kennedy passed away last night, and of course the United We Serve Act is named for Senator Kennedy. He believed very strongly in community service, and I think there's no place better than the Gulf Coast and New Orleans in particular to highlight what one person can do and what one person volunteering can mean to a community.
Tell us about the 4-day initiative. What service projects will you be working on, and how many people will be here to help in that effort?
We have 100 federal employees coming down to New Orleans to volunteer their time. They've paid their own way. They're taking vacation. We felt it was really important to not just show that we were behind and with the community on a policy level from Washington, but also here physically on the ground day in and day out. So we have 100 folks coming down for 4 days. We are working today with Rebuilding Together. We'll be working with Habitat for Humanity, the St. Bernard Project, and then with the Louisiana Disaster Recovery Foundation.
Okay, thank you so much, Janet Woodka. She's going to be getting her hands dirty today. And actually, in about a half hour, they're going to start work on renovating this building as well as some other service projects. But they're actually going to have the kickoff coming up at 12:30. And we're going to have more on that coming up on the noon news as well as online at WWLTV.com. Reporting from the Upper Ninth Ward, Jill Hazu, Channel 4 Eyewitness News.
All right, thanks a lot, Jill.